They said, if there was a sin, the biggest sin would be, or the biggest sinner would be that person who takes advantage of people who are still willing to help others. If there was such a thing as a sin, the biggest sin would be those who take advantage of the people that are still willing to help others. Now there's the biggest sin in terms of, and they did help me struggle through this, because I'm saying the biggest sin. I mean, there's murder, there's rape, there's government, there's war. What about those? And they say no. If there was a sin, and that's too deep, but assuming there was sin, the biggest sin would be the taking advantage of people who are still in a position to be selfless. In other words, those biggest sinners are trying to pull back those who are beginning to understand selflessness, the helping of others. They're pulling them back to the left side of the U. They're pulling them back from advancement. And they're saying, if there was such a thing as sin, the biggest sinners would be those who take advantage, who pull back, who bring back those who are progressing. And in that sense, perhaps, maybe from their point of view, it's true. Maybe the very worst people on this earth today are those that would pull back, that would retard advancement, who would keep people on the left side of the U, keep them selfish, keep them self-centered. Do not allow them to become selfless. And that was the description that they gave. Wars are wars. People die. When you look at the persona or the soul, it doesn't die. It changes from life to life. But what is that? The worst thing that happens is the lack of progress, the staying here, the lack of advancement. And you'll see much more why that is in Book 3, but there it is. The biggest sin in their view, if there was a sin, was those who keep you from progressing. And does the church say anything about that? No, they don't, because those are the people that donate the most. They're not going to sit in that church and be told that they're sinning, that they're the biggest sinners. They're going to leave. More of that in Book 5 again, if it's ever written again. And they go on describing these do-gooders, and they say they believe what those, and the those being those who never matured after leaving high school, they believe what those tell them about how to dress, what to drive, how to act, so that they can be socially acceptable. If they play the game to the highest and richest, they can even join the elite of the social strata in any given area. Is that not true? We will leave it to those who don't believe to ask someone who isn't in their own social group how they see them socially. Don't go up in social class to ask. Go down. Go way down. Down there they know the truth. And what they're saying is, do you think that you're still playing those immature high school social games? Do you think you're not playing them? If you think you're not playing them, go down in social class to those people that are ditch digging and house cleaning and struggling to get by, and ask them what they think of you and your social class. And ask them if you seem mature to them in terms of what you do socially. Ask them what your parties are composed of. Ask them what your clubs, your football groups, your whatever. Ask them how they see what it is that you do as you're running around in your social strata. Is it the same thing as what was going on in high school to a little bit different degree? And then they go on and say, enough of that. Let's go to control. How do they keep others in that part of the U? In other words, how do they keep people at the middle of the left-hand side of the U? What keeps everybody there? They call it information. We call it closer to gossip. Is there a need to talk about someone else in a negative format? Is there a need to almost worship those above you socially? Is there fear when you enter social situations? Are you being controlled? By whom? If they were examined, could they stand up to the test? We will tell you that they can't, and wonder how you could let such control even a small part of your life, much less all of it. Yet there they are in the center of the good community, guiding. So why are they stuck there? They have been told that this is where they belong. They have been advertised to, churched to, told socially that this is where it is. They have been told that anything that doesn't make sense or isn't understood in the context of what they're being taught has to be blown away, ignored, and you just have to assume that it's a trait of this God that they talk about, and that this God that they talk about knows what he's doing, and you can never understand the complexities of his created life. So with that, any questioning of the comfortable life is ended. They have become our example of normal. All of life and its activities are judged against this group. So they're saying, why are you stuck here? You're stuck here because you're told this is where you belong. You've been told it by advertising, you've been told it by your parents, you've been told by the church, you've been told it by society, you've been told by everybody, this is where it is. And if you get to the point in your search for the truth that you find some things that don't make sense, that don't fit into what they're teaching you, they just say, listen, this is God's creation, and there are many things beyond man's understanding, and you just have to accept on faith that God knows what he's doing. And with that ends all discussion. That's how they get stuck there. So let's go on and see what they say about that. Let's look at the you again. There the do-gooders sit halfway down the left side. Isn't there a bit of a way more to go yet on that path? Could it be that there are needs other than what we are taught to be satisfied? As we said in the beginning of this work, the true conflict comes from the misunderstanding of our reason for being here. Until we get the distinction, there will always be those who are trying to be monkeys in a monkey world, balanced, neat, good, opposing those who understand that there are other needs to be satisfied. What about the rest of the you? If we stop at the middle of the left side, what happens to those who need to go on down the left side and then across and up the right side? How will we ever get out of this earth's influence? Do you understand what we are trying to say? These do-gooders truly believe that those further along the you should be brought back. Let me say that again. Do you understand what it is we are trying to say? These do-gooders truly believe that those further along the you should be brought back. They truly believe all others must be saved and taught to become a part of their nice, neat, good family. A person who has traversed almost the total path of the you is seen by them to be in need of correction. A Christ might well be seen to be in need of correction. If he got too far out of line, they might even have to punish him. In truth, they did. In truth, they did again and again and again. And they bracket, no judgment here. We're just reporting. So what did they say? They said that the assumption is that everybody belongs there. And yet, if you look at the path that's been laid out by the we who gave us this work, it goes on. It goes on down. It goes on down the left side. It goes across the bottom and starts going up the right side. They're only a quarter of the way. And yet, anybody that goes on, is the attempt is made to bring them back. Bring them back. In other words, if you've gone beyond them, they view you as in error and you need to come back. Now, I don't know about you, but when I first saw that, that gave me pause to think, these people are normal. These are the people that we consider normal. These are the people that we, kind of look up to. Anybody that isn't in this group, obviously in this group, looks good, smells good, has a nice house, nice lawn, cute car, double car garage, 2.5 kids, well-dressed, go to school, get good grades, go to college. If you aren't part of that group, you need to get into that group. You're a weirdo. You're different. And yet here they are saying you're only a quarter of the way. And here they are saying that if you were a Christ, you would be thought to have to be brought into line. And they said that was true then. And they said that Christ was tried to be brought back into line by them. Now, judgment or not, I don't think I want to be in that group. Maybe they don't judge. Maybe I shouldn't. But I'm only a quarter of the way if I'm in that group. I'm very likely to going to be one of those crying, crucify him, if I'm in that group. I don't want to be there. So I want to know more about the continuation of the you, and that's exactly what they give next, thankfully. I don't want to be normal. Today, when I read this the first time, when they gave it to me, almost instantly, I didn't want to be normal anymore. I said, oh, thank God I'm not normal. I don't want to be normal. I want to go on. So let's see what on is. So they go on. How long is it in this group before a person begins to see what truly motivates man? How long before cynicism? For each, the time is different. Some many lives, some just a few years. Some think it through, what motivates the people around them. It seems to be totally self-serving. The longer they're in this place of you, the more it seems so. They begin to accept it as the only motivation. The question, what will it do for me, becomes the guiding question in all their affairs. With that question comes the belief that there is no God and no purpose for life other than what self can get. Why? Their reasoning runs like this. If there is a God, those who try to get for themselves would be punished. What is seen that the selfish not only don't get punished, but they're the only ones rewarded. What are the rewards after death concept? There are many scams out there that look too good to be true. It doesn't take too long to learn to be careful. Would you stake your life on the fact that you will get your reward in heaven? Look at those again who stand there and proclaim that as true. Look close. Would you stake your life on their guarantee? Many do. So the selfish get rewarded and we are back. There can be no just God, and if God is not just, then all of his other traits, all of his other supposed things that you know about God must be brought into question too. Any man would soon realize that there is no God. And if there is no God, then man is just a tree that will live, enjoy what he may, reproduce if he can, and die. Death will be the end of all, and the existence in any form ends there. With that concept firmly in his mind, how long does it take before he's found at the bottom of you? You understand what they're saying there? If a man is thinking, or if a man has pondered the question at all, and he's in amongst those that are do-gooders in that center left-hand side position of the you, he's going to say, everything seems to be self-centered. But it's okay because there's a God, see? And the God will straighten all these things out. And they look and they say, they aren't straightening things out in life because the bad are rewarded and the good are punished. And so they say, well, after you die. And they look at the people that are saying after you die, and they're getting richer, and they're driving nicer cars, and they're in nicer homes, and their churches are getting bigger, and they're saying, wait a minute. Everywhere I go, I see the scams. Everywhere I go, I see somebody wanting my money for this and that. Every night I listen to the news, I hear scam after scam where some smart person has figured out a way to get your money. And I look at those that are in the church who are telling me who this God is, and they're getting richer, and they're making more money, and they're driving nicer cars, and they've got resorts, and on it goes. And you say, I wonder if maybe that's a scam too, because I don't see any, punishment of the evil here. And you're telling me, oh, well, don't worry about it, it's after death. Yeah, right, And so if that comes into question, then doesn't everything that they say about this God come into question? And if everything they say about this God comes into question and you examine it, a whole bunch of them, by examining life, you have to throw them out. They aren't valid. And pretty soon, you come to the realization that there is no God, that it is all self-serving. And so you go out there and get yours. Why not? There's no punishment. You get yours. You take. You grab. You take. You get. How long before you're in the gutter? How long before you've done so much alcohol you're in the gutter? So much drugs? How long? How long before you've taken so many people to the cleaners that you become insane? How long? How long before you get to the bottom of the U? Everybody? Almost everybody to the bottom of the U? Almost everybody goes through that experience? How long? They say not long. And so they go on. It is on the descent that man learns so very much about life's experiences. It is here that they learn what alone truly means. By definition, those at the bottom left of the U are self-centered and farthest from Father's love. They have only themselves, since all others are out to get something from them. They are truly alone. Who do we find at the bottom of the U? There's a strange combination of types here. Some you'd expect, some you would never guess belonged here. The corporate climber who uses everyone to get his promotion, the corporate head alone in his opulent offices are here. The petty dictator bureaucrat and the movie star are here. The wino, the prostitute, and those who are so alone that they lose their sanity are also here. All those who wallow in self until others can't stand them anymore are here in the gutter of earth. The strange thing is that this is also where the persona learns that other people are important. Being truly alone brings with it the realization that you need something, probably someone. The concept that people are more than just a part of the scenery of life to be used in whatever manner needed to attain your goal is a difficult one, but one that brings the persona across the bottom of you to the right side. That insight brings a cleaning, organizing, straightening out of life. The long journey up the right side has begun. So what they're saying is, by the time you hit the bottom, there is no God. Every human being is out to get you. You're alone. And with that alone understanding, all of a sudden comes the, hey, I need somebody. I need something. I don't like being alone. I need someone to share with. I need someone. And with that realization comes a slide across the bottom of the U to the right side, where your self-centeredness begins to leave, where your self-centeredness begins to disappear, where you become more selfless, where those around you are no longer part of the scenery. They're real human beings like you that have needs and wants like you, and all of a sudden you realize that other people exist. And now you're not on the left side of the U. Now you're more selfless, more help other people oriented. And they go on understanding that they're going on from the right side of the U. You've been in the gutter. You realize that people are important, and now you're on the right side. And they say the first step up is almost always accompanied by finding some higher God. The person will be newborn in his finding and will put his whole self into his new religion. He can hardly be blamed for this newfound enthusiasm. He's just found a reason for living after such a long time of hopelessness, despair, and loneliness. He now sees a new hope, a new life, a new purpose. He has enthusiasm again. He is the recovered alcoholic, the born-again Christian, the caring teacher, the nurturing parent, the nurse, that person that wants to help, all those who crusade to help people. This is the beginning of the right side down the bottom of that corner of the U. And as we go along up the U, then This person is helped in his effort to climb up the left side of the U by another group located just below the middle on the left side. This group is a counterpart to the do-gooders on the other side. The difference is that they've gone through the bottom of the U and are wiser in the ways of the world. They recognize the needs of others, and thus can and do truly help. They are often found in religious organizations or fraternal groups. They feel the need to help those in the gutter somewhere in the world and give much of themselves in that endeavor. Those who are at the bottom of life and the U feel a tremendous pull of these people and cannot remain at the bottom long. This group we're going to call the moral group because they have such a strong focus on morality and helping. They are different from the do-gooder group in that they do understand more clearly the true needs of any individual who is in need of help. They don't just give momentary hand and then go on to something else. They dedicate their life to the task and take another and another until their resources, both mental and physical, are strained. They rarely, if ever, are recognized for their work because they don't seek fame. Those in the Salvation Army are a good example of this group. There are many others, of course, since there are many different types of gutter people. Fortunately, churches and fraternal groups are free to choose their own method of accomplishing this work. We compared this moral group to the do-gooder group on the other side. You are probably wondering why, since the comparison of the two would seem to indicate that there's little similarity. There's a problem with this group, too, that is the cause of our comparison. They are active in trying to save those in the gutter or at the bottom of the U. In their effort, they run into great resistance from those at the bottom. It takes great persistence and perseverance to get them to understand that all isn't lost and the world isn't just a garbage bin. For each one they save, there is a feeling of reward and rightness. They have brought one more into their family. Sound familiar? With all of this good work, how could anyone fault this moral group? How could one go against this highest good, the highest in religious activity, those who get the job done, save the errant soul? What fool would suggest there's more to learn or elsewhere to go? And there lies the problem. If this moral group is in the middle of the right side of the U, then there must be more to do and learn than they acknowledge. How would a person move past this moral group and on? In looking at the problem, we can see that a person who has just come from an incarnation at the top of the moral group now finds himself restless and uneasy with this group's teachings. As he tries to break away from the mainstream thought, the pressure becomes intense. The moral group was told that they were wrong by those on the bottom of the U. They persevered, and those souls were saved. Now here's another person questioning their rightness, and again they must persevere and save that soul. Who is it that moves on past that kind of pressure? And the next chapter is the chasm. And they say, here we are obligated to stop and give you something to consider. Book 5 will cover this aspect of the discussion more thoroughly, but there needs to be input here for your understanding. Look at life in relation to the you. Can you see the difficulty a person has getting past the second roadblock? That's the moral group. Where is the help that could be expected here? What was supposed to be here to help those who were to move on? Why do we have such a chasm to cross before any progress is seen? Who or what benefits from the failure to go on? And they go to level 1. There is a block, a crater, something missing at this point in the U. What is missing is some organization which was to guide those who are now ready to go on. Why is it missing isn't truly important if you see that there is an on to go and you take the abuse to get there. That's level 1. Level 2. Go with level 1 or read what you can with level 3 and go on. The result will be the same if you understand that you must go on and get past this block. You can and should. Then they go to level 3. We must now divide this discussion into 3 segments. The first segment will deal with why there are blocks along the U. The second, what are the blocks? And the third, what should have been there? And so, why are the blocks? And they say, We have asked the question before when we write at the do-good part of the you. Again, we come to the same question. Who or what benefits from the blocks or barriers placed in our way as we try to traverse the path found by the you? Why keep people here on earth, worshiping the material, wallowing in the muck, never realizing that they are souls and that souls never die? What do people do when they are stuck here that would benefit anyone or anything? As you might guess, we will try to answer that question in detail in Book 5. But let us give you this as a direction and enough until then. Father gave all souls free will at birth. It would seem a possibility that with free will, a very small number of souls might have come to the conclusion that Father wanted all souls to become as he was. That conclusion might have been twisted by a small few who had developed the need to be worshipped as Father is. There is no competing with Father to be the God of love. No soul could even come close. How then could this need to be worshipped be fulfilled? Could something have happened here that was different? Was there a rebellion in heaven? Did some of the caretakers taste the power of ruling over the soul? Did the whisper go out that man too could be a God? If that were true, then where was there a place that a soul might hide from Father? Where could this soul set up his own empire, his own kingdom? Where could he have dominion over other souls? Where would they worship him and forget about Father? Could an obscure planet here or there suffice? We are sure that you can see the possibility. Now, how can you get those who enter your dominion to forget about Father and worship you? Could you produce a big lie that would keep each person from progressing? Couldn't you produce all manner of illusions having the power of creation to a lesser degree to keep your subjects from progressing? And more important, couldn't you turn the worship around so that you would be the undisputed top of the hierarchy? To use love as a vehicle of worship for this errant soul would lead some to the thought that, yes, the soul is great in love, but don't we almost remember one even higher than he? Isn't Father the true source of love? The need then is to change the worship around and choose hate as the worship. All that we could call evil soon follows. You understand what they're saying here? Is there a group of souls, since we have free will, that say, Father's great, everybody worships Father, I want to be like Father, I want to be worshipped. I can't be worshipped as the God of love because that's already taken. What's left? The God of hate? The God of evil? Why not? Where? Some obscure something somewhere in this great creation. There must be some place where Father doesn't have his finger. How about this little planet called Earth? And how long would it be before evil would follow? As they said, much more will be covered in Book 5 if it's ever written, but you can get the picture of the thinking of some souls that have free will and can choose as they wish. And so, let's go on. And they say, now we have come full circle and ask again, what do people do when they are stuck in Earth's influence that would benefit anyone or anything? Do they enter into the exercise of any form of evil or hate? Do they recruit others to follow their example? Could all evil or hate feed the need of those errant souls, giving them more and more power? Could we have given them enough power that they could create these blocks or chasms? And perhaps more important, who or what was it that whispered the lie in the first place? And what does it gain? Then they go on to the next part of the question, and that was, what are the blocks? To help answer all those questions, let's look at the blocks in our path and see if they help give a clue as to the reason for their formation. First comes the pulling down of the new soul into the earth experience. Couldn't each soul, each new soul, be given a guided tour of this place and its beauty? Couldn't the tour include a path and thus the way out? Why are those who find such joy in the taking of the innocent ones allowed to continue their work? That's the first block. I mean, you know they're talking about the do-gooders there. And saying, couldn't you just say, this is the path, keep going, instead of stop here, this is where you belong, this is it? And as the first block is entered, they ask, why is it that there's so much credence given to such a ridiculous set of assumptions? Why the tremendous advertising campaign? Why the apparent reward for those who buy the big lie? Where is the organized opposition to this garbage with its strength and persuasion? How can we think that those who buy youth, buy love, buy your respect, buy heaven are normal? How do all others become something less than normal? And then they want to go on to that's discussing the first block, moving on to the second block, and that is the moral group. We just discussed the moral group and their excellent work in pulling those in the gutter out to safety. We also discussed the problem that they cause when the need to go on beyond them is felt. There's nothing to go on to. Why the big hole? Why the chasm? This is the last stronghold for errant souls. Here we find the best of the smooth tongues. We have the preachers of the errant path in all forms, promoting the way to the dead end or to your pocketbook. Here we have the churches of the errant path, knowing just enough to convince the true seeker. And where do they lead you to but guilt and shame, and to your pocketbook, and to the worship of those very men, the elite of the church, who are supposed to be your teachers and examples? Here we have the mystical schools of the errant path, teaching much of the lost knowledge as they bring you to an almost unnoticed turn in the pathway. They catch many. Here we have the New Age and so much of the misknowledge. It is as if they couldn't even take time to test their suppositions, or perhaps the error is intended. With all of these, we have some who intend harm, and some who just don't know what harm they do. If that wasn't enough, we also find a group who stands at the edge of this chasm, blocking all who would pass. They are the hardest to get by. They are the old souls of earth. Let's take a look at them, since they are the ones who, on purpose or otherwise, bring a halt to all but a very few. They have come to the block or chasm just past the moral group. They have tried again and again to go on. It seems that all paths lead nowhere. They are wise, old, bored souls. Some take joy in leading the younger ones astray. Some just say, don't bother going that way or trying that, since I've already been there and it was a dead end. They truly believe that the younger, and in younger they mean less time here on the earth plane, the younger ones should stop, since the old souls are much further along and they've come to a dead end. The word cynicism is as close as you can get to the attitude, yet falls far short.